G'day Bomber fans, we've got the VFL to chat about to distract you lot from the AFL result on Friday night. The VFL wasn't much better. The Dogs smashed the Bombers in the rain at the hangar. It was a bloody windy game too. The Bombers led at quarter time by under a goal, but then the next quarter, when the Dogs went with the wind, they kicked about 300 on us. They just took control of the game, winning 32-95. It was really dull game of footy. We had just the 6 AFL listed players line up, so there's not as much to talk about, but there is an injury concern. There were some really good performances, one from a potential debutant. We had 6 AFL listed players. The Dogs had 17, so almost 3 times more talent, AFL talent in the game. We also had guys like Hobbs, May, and Dersma being rested. Not too sure what the go with Unwin was. I think he was lined up ready to play in the team lineup on Friday night, and I maybe just managed minutes. I'm not too sure. We'll find out, I guess. But yeah, let's get through the AFL guys and see how they did. Kayle Gerreyn, really interesting. So he was playing down back. I'm guessing that is the club trying to find ways around the injury crisis again. Same thing we did with Blackiston. He played defence, and I thought he was good. I don't think he's ready for AFL. I don't think it's quite the same as Blackiston, where it's prepping him to play in a week or two. But I thought he was good. He was beaten out a few times, lost once or twice. That's expected, but for the most part, he had good defensive intent. He was really good with his positioning. There was a 3 to 4 goal breeze going one side of the oval, and I thought of the defenders, Gerreyn at times was the best at reading the ball in that wind, either playing off the back of his shoulder when it was going towards him or in front when it was going the other way. I liked his ball use, and late in the game he was trusted with some kickouts on that booming right boot. Now, there's plenty to work on, but I do see a bit there. I think his style of play and build is probably more suited to the forward half, but we don't have many numbers in the back half, I guess on either side of the field really. But yeah, you do need key backs more than you need key forwards, I think, so I wouldn't mind seeing him in this role to round out the year at VFL level. There were some promising signs. He's strong at the contest, reads the ball well, can take a good clunk, good on the ball. I think we persist with this, and if needed, he'll get destroyed at AFL level, but if needed, I guess we don't have too many other options. He's now, I guess, our best key defender on the sidelines because we don't have anyone else. But yeah, good stuff. Jye Menzie. This was a guy who really would have hated half of the game because when the wind was going with the Bombers, Menzie was great. I thought he was our best in the opening quarter. When the wind was going the other way, the Dogs locked the ball inside 50 away from Menzie and he just couldn't get involved. I think weirdly enough, he had a pretty good game despite the stats. I thought he was our most damaging player in the forward half. Kicked a really challenging drop punt after a strong mark. Had some good moments on ground level. I thought he was decent. He's in pretty good form, Menzie. He's been playing well lately. I think if Scott wants to reward good form and make our team better, Menzie probably comes in over Smart or even Gresham or Guelphy or someone. But I wouldn't be surprised if the decision has already been made with his contract and he sticks out the year and the Rezzies battling away. We'll see. If Smart is injured, because he did come off late in that Dogs game, if he's injured, I think it makes sense for Menzie to come back in. Alwyn Davey Jnr, really good stuff. He's still in the back line, he's running off a flank, but I loved his energy. The ball was living down his half. The Dogs had almost double the amount of inside 50s as us, but yeah, Davey was battling really hard, throwing his body around, putting in a shift defensively, and his offensive work was strong too. He looked really poised and composed exiting defensive 50, and he did it a lot. His stats are probably skewed by the amount of kick-ins he took. I'd say he had, and this is a guess, but I'd say maybe 5 or 6 of his kicks were from kick-ins. But even those, there were times where he took really good distance from them and picked out a nice pass. I think he mostly had an effective day. Maybe one of his best games of the year, given the circumstances, the wet, the wind. I thought he looked a class above most out there. I will say there were some mistakes, like some really poor defensive efforts as well. Some errant passes, usually by hand, that were turnovers. I think when he's in space, he's really good, really clean. When he's in close and personal with the footy, I don't rate it as much. But yeah, I liked his game. Overall, it was a strong showing. His tackling pressure was good. I'm happy. I don't know how he squeezes into that back line without replacing Johnson or someone, but yeah, good stuff. Big Vigo. Probably a poorer game by his standards, which out of nowhere have become a bit lofty. He was rucking the whole game, pretty much. He was up against Lachlan Smith, who was a Bulldogs ruck of the same age. I think they're both 19. I'd say Smith won the battle. Vigo had 25 hitouts, 9 touches, a few clearances and some big tackles. Smith got more of the footy, won more of the ruck for his team. I thought Vigo put himself in really good positions to impact the game, but just couldn't remain clean. He had some moments that should have been taken intercept marks or collected the footy, but he seemed to be a bit more fumbly in the wet than he usually is. As I said before, his tackling was that first quarter alone. There were 3 bone-crunching tackles, and he really does go in hard with his body. We saw that against Freo when he hurt himself, but yeah, in the end, I'd say the battle was probably won by Lachie Smith, and if it wasn't, it was a 50-50. I think, if he had gone out and monstered Smith and had a big day, I might be inclined to say bring him in because Goldie wasn't doing too much in the AFL, but the way I see it, Goldie wasn't heaps worse than English, and English is much, much better than Lachie Smith, who was in this game better than Vigo. So I think there are still quite a few levels that Vigo has to get to before he comes in for regular footy, and he just isn't quite there yet. I do think he plays once more before the year ends. We've got that Gold Coast Carlton 5 or 6 day break, so he might play that. But yeah, okay game from Vigo. Hoping to see more next week. Jayden Nguyen, I would say of the AFL listed players, he was probably the best. And to be fair, the ball was down his end a lot. So him and Davey and I guess Gerreyn, those 3 were the most eye-catching because they had the most opportunities to be. But no, Nguyen was tough. He was so tough, probably too tough for his own good. He ended the game on the bench in concussion protocols because he tried to take an opponent, or not concussion protocol, sorry, HIA assessment, because he tried to tackle an opponent with his head. Hopefully he's okay. I'm recording this before we have any information, so we may know by now if he is indeed concussed or not. But no, he was really good, really strong defensively, really hard at it. He gave his all game. Tweeted out halfway through that Nguyen's our toughest player on the list, and I stand by that. I don't think there is anyone who is as tough as Nguyen. He is undersized, but he throws his body around like it doesn't matter. I will say he did also have some of the biggest howlers in this game. He had a horrific turnover in defensive 50 that resulted in a goal. And then the moment where he got his head knocked was because he tried to take someone on after a mark, got tackled, kicked a grubber to an opponent, and then tackled him trying to rectify the mistake. So yeah, nowhere near finished product. Not ready for AFL footy, I don't think. But if the injuries continue, maybe he comes in. I think of the players yet to make their debut, Nguyen's probably the one that I would consider playing the most. Not saying he should play, but I don't even know who he comes in for. Maybe, I don't know, I can't think of anyone, to be honest. Maybe Zach Johnson, but very different players. I don't know, we'll see. Good stuff, though. He was really good. 17 touches, mostly kicks, a lot of intercepts, too. And finally, Archer Day-Wicks. I thought he would get himself a rest for this game because he's been battered and bruised the last fortnight. But he didn't. He finished the game on the bench in the last 2 games with a niggle, and then he has to come out and play in brutal, wet and windy conditions. So probably wasn't enjoying himself out there. And he was pretty much nowhere. His work in open play was almost non-existent. He touched the footy maybe once or twice each quarter, finished on 6 touches for the game. What I will say, the one positive is his tackling pressure. It was immense. 5 for the game, but I would say there would have been close to 10 efforts that maybe didn't stick but impacted a player's disposal or ability to get the footy. I really like seeing him play tough defensive footy, but there was just, not enough in attack at all. I still think he probably needs a rest. But yeah, that's that. Not really much to talk about at all this week. Just the 6 VFL players, a few of them rested, but a few more AFL injuries, so there might be a bit of shuffling going on. We'll see. That is all. Cheers for watching, Bomber fans. Make sure you like, subscribe, and as always, go Bombers.